Most drivers' cars ask you to suffer a little bit so that you can feel morally involved. Noise, stiffness, fidgety body control, the tiny punishments people on forums file under feedback. Bentley looked at that whole arrangement and found it a bit theatrical. The Continental GTC S lets you drive hard, then quietly takes the martyrdom out of it. The headline is that this makes 671 horsepower, and by Bentley's own numbers, this outruns the old W12 in every meaningful way. The subtext is better. Bentley retired the engine it spent 2 decades presenting as the whole occasion. Then it replaced it with something that's quieter, cleaner, and fast enough that grief may be limited. The W12 was theater. This is an exit done properly. There's 686 pounds of torque on tap, and that electric motor covers any potential gap in torque that may come from this V8 twin turbo. You never catch this car off boost, and it never feels like it has to gather itself before it goes. My friends, any hesitation is gone. The V8 wakes, the electric motor fills in the gaps, and the entire handoff feels like the powertrain is doing Switzerland-grade diplomacy on your behalf. Effort has been engineered out, which to some means progress and to others may mean sedation. Bentley fit a sports exhaust to bring out the V8's charisma, and for once, the marketing undersells it. Fire it up and it sounds glorious, and from the outside, there's some real attitude there. Low-frequency rumble, some mechanical richness, and no desperate attempt to sound like a startup sequence at a Vegas casino. In a car designed to filter out everything else, Bentley left some in on purpose. For a car like this, that is the correct decision. The claimed electric range of 50 miles is on the WLTP, so treat that as optimistic. But the point is not emissions. The point is so that you can leave your driveway in silence. You can creep through a 30-mile-an-hour zone without announcing your presence, then fire up that V8 and preserve your battery charge level for use later. The same car that can do 0 to 60 in 3.3 seconds can also arrive without making a point. Bentley understands which of those talents its owners will use most. The throttle behaves less like a pedal and more like a volume knob. You do not build speed in this car. You select it, and the car goes there with such little fuss that the numbers become slightly abstract. Bentley quotes a top speed of 190 miles an hour, but this car is so unbothered by speed that the biggest risk is forgetting how quickly you arrived there. Subscribers get the next review when it goes live. Everyone else leaves it to the algorithm. If you want to see when our new episodes drop on this channel, that's what the subscribe button does. Every part of the Performance Active Chassis exists to manage a slightly inconvenient truth: that this is a large open-top Bentley with hybrid hardware. Mass does not become easier to manage just because the leather's nice. The 48-volt active anti-roll bars and twin-valve dampers don't make the weight disappear. They simply stop it from entering the conversation in the first place. In sport, lean on it and it corners flat. It's almost discreet about the amount of Bentley changing direction. Four-wheel steering arrives on the S for the first time, and its first job is to lie to you about the size of this car. At low speeds, the rears turn out of phase with the fronts, and suddenly you're able to stick this Bentley into tight parking spots that it has no business fitting in. At higher speeds, the rear steer in phase, and for lane changes or out on the open road, this changes lanes like something smaller, lighter, and less committed to upholstery. You never see the four-wheel steer system working, and that's the point. Dynamic mode permits what Bentley delicately calls a level of rear axle slip, which is corporate language for letting the rear end move while keeping a hand near your collar. You can rotate it on throttle, and then you let the E-diff sort out your corner exit exit. It's enough to give the driver some responsibility without turning this car into a liability. Switch the ESC off and that safety net does go away, though most owners will never discover that menu, which is perhaps the correct path for everyone involved. Brakes are a study in priorities, and capacity is monstrous. They haul a car this heavy down from real speed repeatedly without any fade worthy of that term. The brake-by-wire blend is invisible, so you never catch that handoff between friction braking and regen or vice versa. The pedal stays consistent, but the catch is feel. The pedal is soft and long underfoot when you lean on it hard. You brake by trust in the system rather than a firm bite at the top of the pedal. And that calibration's probably right for how this car is intended to be used. Carbon silicon carbide discs are available if you decide to track this car, which you won't. P0s are fitted here for the weight of this GTC S, not for heroics. There's grip, but load them into a corner or stand on the brakes and you can hear them working. It's a matter of the chassis writing checks that these tires have to think about. Steering is strong and stable on center without the constant correction that would make a car of this size feel tiring on a motorway. Off-center, it lightly weights up and effort is openly synthetic. Feedback is grand tour or minimal, so you drive it with your eyes and inner ear, not your fingertips. The comm is impressive, but it could also flatter a novice beyond the edge of their skill. And that's because this car spends no time telling you how fast you're traveling. Ride quality is the trick that makes the rest of this package believable. The big impacts, the ugly surfaces, the mid-corner bumps that usually expose something this heavy, it absorbs them, it settles, and then declines to make a speech about the matter. Composure this complete is its own party trick. If you want to support the channel beyond just watching, the link to the merch store is here. Your support there means more time for us to produce episodes like this and a little less time worrying about industry access. No pressure, just an option. This interior is where this car finishes hiding the evidence. The two-tone upholstery, the stunning seats, the Dinamica on the wheel, and the shifter are all intended to make this a little sporting. Fine, but the actual brief for this cabin is isolation. From noise, from weather, from cheap surfaces, from anything the chassis has filtered out on your behalf. You sit in it, and the outside world becomes just a rumor. This seat may be one of the best in the industry at any price. The design looks like theater until you sit in it for a few hours, and then you realize you've done so without the seat creating any pressure points. On this tester, the rotating display was optional. It flips between a touchscreen, these 3 analog gauges, and a panel of blank veneer that pretends the future wasn't invited. It serves no function that the touchscreen couldn't handle, which isn't so much of a criticism as it is a full explanation of Bentley's ethos. You'll show it to every passenger, they'll ask to see it again. Uselessness is not the point, theater is. The options list is where Bentley stops pretending every decision has to serve the drive. On this car, $405 buys dual fuel and oil filler caps, $795 buys self-leveling wheel badges. The Bentley B stays level while the wheel spins, a feature that exists almost entirely so that other people know you paid for it. This test car wears $65,195 of these decisions. None of them make it faster. Every one of them makes perfect sense to the person writing the check. Build quality, my friends, is the part you can't fake. Run a hand over the veneer, pull a switch, or close a door, and the car earns its badge in a way the spec sheet never will. Roof up, and it's quiet enough that the convertible penalty never registers. Roof down, and the cabin is calm enough for normal conversation, though anyone with actual hair will want the wind blocker before entering the motorway. Practicality is ceremonial. Visibility is what you should expect for a coupe-shaped convertible designed by people who prioritize the silhouette over reversing confidence. The boot is shallow, it's fine fine for soft bags and hopeless for hard-shell carry-ons. The rear seats exist, but mostly as upholstered evidence that this is supposed to be a 4-seat Grand Tourer. Now, exterior lighting detail is at another level. The dark tint precision design matrix headlamps and tail lamps read as expensive from across the car park. On a car that keeps most of its effort quiet, it's in the lighting where it allows itself to show off. A point of deference is the interface layer. Bentley fitted "Hey Bentley" as a wake word, because nothing says effortless luxury like having to say your car's name before it agrees to listen. Everything you touch in here feels expensive. Everything you tap feels like it wandered in from somewhere less expensive in the Volkswagen Group. If this gave you more information than a brochure or a press release, hit like. It tells YouTube to share this with other people like you interested in an episode like this. Takes just a second. This is the part of the episode where I tell you what owners have learned after a year with the car. The GTC S has been on sale for about 5 minutes, so nobody has. The powertrain, though, has a past life. It's not unique to Bentley. It's the Volkswagen Group's 4-liter twin-turbo plug-in V8 architecture, the same basic family that's been doing time in the Porsche Panamera and Cayenne e-hybrid for years, tuned here to wear better tailoring. And the Porsche crowd has filed receipts that Bentley can't yet. Start with range, treat the electric figure as optimistic, worse in the cold or uphill. My stint is nowhere near scientific, but it pointed to mid-30s instead of the claimed 50. It's the same gap Porsche owners have been logging for years. Then there's what happens when one of these sits. A hybrid that sits has 2 batteries available to disappoint you, and on the Porsche and Audi versions, owners describe a drained 12-volt pulling the high-voltage system into the drama with it, a parked vehicle safely warning, and a car that will not move. None of that is documented on the Bentley yet, so it stays platform caution, not a verdict. You condition this one, you do not admire it under a cover until spring. The good news comes from that shared engine. It's the V8 Porsche and Audi have built for years, so an independent group specialist could service it for less than the Bentley dealer will quote. That's extrapolated from the platform, not yet proven on this car, but the logic holds. The people this car is built for will not care about any of it. These are year 2 and later problems, and reviews are year 1 business. If you own one of these or have some quality seat time in one of these, let me know in the comments what I got right and what I got wrong, because real-world owner experiences are much more revealing than a week-long press loan, and I always read those comments. The Continental GTC S answers a question that most performance cars refuse to ask. What if you wanted the capability without the penance? It corners hard without the harshness and goes fast without making fast feel like an ordeal. For the enthusiast who believes suffering is the entry fee, that's heresy. For the person who's done the suffering and decided they're done with it, this might be the most honest car Bentley builds. Nobody needs a $400,000 convertible. The GTC S has the decency not to pretend otherwise, which is more self-awareness than most of its rivals manage. What you give up is conversation, and a great driver's car talks to you constantly, but a lot of that talk is complaint. The noise and the vibration from the road and the constant sense that the machine is barely tolerating it. The GTC S has muted most of it, and some drivers will consider that a loss instead of a luxury. They're not wrong, and they're also not the customer. Bentley has never lost sleep over people who are the customer. This is a driver's car for people who have finally admitted they don't enjoy traditional driver's cars. And there are more of them than the internet would like you to believe. Every system in this car works to put distance between you and the unpleasant parts of speed. It's the automotive equivalent of flying private. This GTC S is not trying to make you work for it, and that will offend the correct people. It gives the driver enough authority to feel involved, then removes the unpleasant parts before anyone in a passenger seat asks why that was necessary. Purists may consider this a betrayal of the concept of a driver's car. Bentley will consider the source and then continue selling them. That's the GTC S. Subscribe if you want to see more episodes like this. Don't if you don't. Comments are open if you disagree, and the link to the merch store is here if you want to help fund more of these. See you on the next one.